All right. Well, good morning, everybody. We're going to get started with today's agent development training. Appreciate you all joining us. Obviously, if you have the ability to turn on your camera, we would rather see you than a black box. I know I say that every week, but I do appreciate visual engagement on this if you're able to. If you're still laying in bed, I suppose probably don't turn your camera on. But yeah, I hope everybody's having a good start to the week. We wrapped up last week's session with Steve Cavajola, and he had worked his way through 8 or 9 different weeks of additional trainings. I am going to be making available some different content, video content for all of you to review. Part of this is because next Tuesday, we are not going to have this agent development training. I like to be very, very consistent with this, but next Tuesday, a lot of our top agents and leaders are actually going to be in Chicago in a special life insurance training. Sandra and Steve and Tyler and Gary and I will all be there for 3 days, and we have some of our top life insurance agents coming in for 2 days. So I'll be gone Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday on that. So we are not going to have agent development training. We just have really no one in a position to host it because we're all going to be tied up in that life insurance training next week. I'm going to be sharing a couple of things with you guys, though, especially as new agents. One of the things that I would encourage you to do is to continue to be a student of your business and to continue to watch and review a lot of the recorded content that we have put out there. So I'm going to show you a few things here. I'm going to share my screen and just show you a few things that I'm going to be sharing with you. First of all, I am going to be sending out Steve Cavajola's business plan of action. If you have been through a recent new agent training, you have hopefully received this. At the end of the third day, Steve has asked you to reach out to him. And if you reach out to him, he sends you his business plan of action. And there's obviously a ton of important content in here. But I would say what's probably most important in this entire business plan of action is the video content that Steve has built out for each of you. Steve has actually got a lot of the different things that he's trained on. He's actually got these ordered and labeled with the dates that he recorded them, and then the direct links for the Zoom recordings. So everything from how he uses his PTS to using the CRM to market to business cards, his appointment setting process, working leads. All of this information are video recordings that you guys can refer back to and work your way through. And so whether you're driving or you're working out or you're mowing the lawn, there's various times when you can use these video recordings and listen to them. They should all be accessible from an iPhone or an Android operating system. So you should be able to just pull this up on your email and click on the link and literally throw your AirPods in and listen to this content. If you want to schedule some time early mornings just to continue to be a student of your business, I think this is a really great place to start. So I'm going to be sending out these videos. I'm going to batch this all into one email so you guys have access to it with just training videos. And I'd encourage you, if you're new or you're not yet where you want to be in the business, I think you should plow through some of these video trainings and just continue to immerse yourself in the business in this way. I'm also going to be sending out a series of recorded ADT sessions that we recorded last year. And it's a 12 module series, starting with advanced technology and then working our way through prospecting, building a referral practice, qualifying prospects and working the phones, the presentation, the policy review, and then compensation, financials, and reports. So each one of these are an hour-long session, so it's another 12 hours of training content. Last but not least, I'm going to be adding another tab to this particular spreadsheet before I send it out. And that extra tab is going to have the content that Steve delivered over the last 8 or 9 weeks, which was really focused on what he would do if he was a new agent in the business. And so literally with all of this, we're probably giving you close to 30 hours worth of recorded content from top agents and top leaders in the organization that you can continue to work your way through. I will mention that when I started in the business many, many years ago, Health Markets provided what we actually called drive time videos. And with those drive time videos, we actually were able to record what top agents panels had been done at our national events, and they gave them to us on CDs. And so I don't even have a CD player in my vehicle anymore. But back in the day, I used to listen to those CDs over and over and over again. I thought it was really important to continue to, like I say, immerse myself in the business and understand what new agents were doing that might be uniquely different from what I was actually doing. So I'm going to provide that video content for you. I hope that you take it and you leverage it and you use it and you listen to it again and again. That's why we recorded it. I will mention that most of the videos that I've set out now, you do have to register to view. So when you click on the link, you've got to put in your name and your email address. Part of it is I want to be able to monitor like who's serious about this and who's actually doing this and diving into this material. So hopefully you find value in that. I would encourage you, take some time, start getting a schedule in place where you actually start pouring back through some of that material. So wanted to mention that. Again, no ADT next week. I also wanted to remind everybody that there is a national call hosted by Dan Garrison today at 4:00 p.m. I'd encourage all of you to jump on it. There's going to be a lot of updates, a lot of additional content, updates on what's going on in the short-term world with some new updates from Golden Rule on that. There's going to be some Medicare updates and then some insights from some top agents and leaders across the country. So I think it's probably going to run close to an hour, but it's at 4:00 p.m. Eastern time, 3:00 p.m. Central time. And so watch your email. You'll have the link. I would encourage you to try to jump on a little bit early if you can, like a few minutes. If you're trying to come in right at the wire, right as the call starts, sometimes there's a little bit of a bottleneck. And we've had agents who have had difficulty getting into the call before if they're trying to join it a minute or 2 or 5 minutes late, like some of you who just came into the call a moment ago. So see if you can get there a few minutes ahead of time. I think you'll have a better chance of getting in on that. I also wanted to share with you guys a couple of other thoughts as we kind of work towards our discussion with Michelle. We are going to be focusing our comments today on individual coverage HRAs, and we'll give you some more context on that in a moment. But as we kind of lead into that, the main reason that I wanted to spend a little bit of time focusing on individual coverage HRAs is because this is the time of year where we really need to be doing the plowing that we do in our business and engaging with small business America. Steve Cavajola and I have said for years, I think the small business America is where our sweet spot is. We can help anybody who doesn't have access to corporate style benefits, and even some people that do have access to corporate style benefits. But from a marketing perspective and a targeting perspective and an outreach perspective, small business America needs our help more than anyone else. I think about self-employed small business owners. Not only do they have assets to pay for insurance, but they have resources that they need to protect. They're also very busy. Many of them don't have an HR department to help them sort through this, and they need a trusted advisor to come in and be one of their board members, as Gary would say, and help guide them through this decision process. And so I sent out an email this morning. Hopefully you guys had a chance to review it. I'd encourage you to go back to it. This is a message that I had shared last summer that I just wanted to reshare with all of you. Because if you are struggling in this business or you're not yet where you want to be, I really think these 5 key initiatives are where you need to be spending the vast majority of your time. Obviously, I truly believe that you've got to have a plan and work that plan. I want to recap a little bit of a conversation that I had with a brand new agent this morning. I had an 8:30 call with one of our new agents. And one of the things that we really talked through was that map of life. Like, what does a really good weekly schedule look like for you? And as I was talking with this agent through it, it just kind of, I thought, this is really good content to just remind people of what a really good week looks like. I'm a firm believer that you've got to focus 40 hours a week on running appointments, scheduling appointments, and marketing your business. And so what does that look like spread out over a 5-day or 5.5-day work week? I'm a big believer that you should have specific blocks of time in your schedule where you should be dialing the phone and only dialing the phone. Now, when I say only dialing, you might be texting along with that or sending an email here and there, but it's really outreach with the intent of scheduling an appointment with the consumer. And I look at a lot of the top agents in the country and the top agents on our team. I really believe that if you're getting started in this business, you have to be making 250 to 300 phone dials on a weekly basis. We do see some agents push up towards the 500 mark on a weekly basis, which the more you do, the more that you will get. But as you kind of start breaking that out, if you're making 250 dials on a weekly basis, that probably equates to 10 or 12 hours worth of dialing time. And so I think you've got to be really, really diligent about making sure that you have those dialing times set up. And I think setting them up in a minimum of 2-hour time blocks is probably the best way to structure things. You also then have to run appointments and market your business. I'm a believer that you can commingle those two activities in the same time slot with, obviously, if you have an appointment to run, that becomes the priority. But if you don't have an appointment to run, then the marketing aspect of what you need to do, the walking and talking, the networking, the filling community boards with your information, that type of granular marketing work is what needs to be done, during those other hours. So as you kind of break this out, how I would envision a really great week for an agent is maybe 8 to 12 on Monday is dialing time, a good 4-hour dialing block in the morning. And then you grab some lunch at noon, and then 1 o'clock, you say, okay, I'm going to get out and I'm going to go market. I'm going to go walk and talk from 1 to 4. So put 3 hours in of getting out there. And when you're walking and talking, you're dropping off information, picking up business cards, putting your information on community boards, and then taking pictures of all the other business cards that are on those community boards so that you can initiate a follow-up process and get those contacts into your CRM so you can begin marketing to them. And then come back home. And I think if you're willing to do it, dialing the phones from 4 o'clock in the afternoon till 8 o'clock in the evening when the DNC shuts you down, you can't call after 8 o'clock without permission, is a wonderful time to catch people that you wouldn't catch any other time. So that's a really good, solid Monday. And if you think about it, you'd have 8 hours in dialing and maybe another 2 or 3 hours in actual marketing. I think Tuesday could look very similar to that. I've always been a big believer that my heavy phone dialing time needs to be on Monday and Tuesday so that I can set up Wednesday and Thursday to be my appointment days. So maybe it's another 4 hours, 8 to noon on Tuesday morning, some marketing midday. And then if you want to make a couple of hours of phone dials in the evening and maybe knock off a little bit earlier on Tuesday, that would be a good Tuesday schedule. I'm a big believer then that Wednesday and Thursday need to be your appointment days. So maybe you're running a 9, an 11, a 2, and a 4. I like to schedule appointments at least 2 hours apart. But my goal was always to book 3 or 4 appointments on Wednesday and 3 or 4 appointments on Thursday so that I had those time slots booked. And those were the times where I was working really hard to get appointments scheduled. Knowing in the back of my mind, though, that if I didn't have an appointment scheduled during those time blocks, that time block flipped into marketing, walking and talking, networking, getting my information out to people. And then Friday can be a bit of a catch-all. You could make phone calls on Friday. Many times we have sales meetings on Friday. Maybe you want to knock off a little bit early on Friday. I always enjoyed taking a little bit of time to myself on Friday afternoons. Saturdays are a wonderful day to work if you're willing to do so. Through the early years of my career, I did work 1 or 2 Saturdays a month, and it wasn't a full Saturday, but I'd work from 9 in the morning to maybe 1 in the afternoon and either hit the phones or run appointments or schedule that out. But I think for those of you who don't have a set schedule yet, you need to go back to that map of life, which is also available on the Google Drive in the New Agent Training Handbook that you all should have access to. In that particular folder, we have that map of life, that 1-page overview of what a good week looks like. And so I'd encourage you to take some time to build that out. That should be your game plan. And it really focuses on scheduling appointments, running appointments, and marketing your business, because those are the 3 revenue generating activities that we engage in. Have a little background noise. So I also think you need to focus on reigniting your warm market and your warm network. So continue to work those centers of influence, the people who know you, like you, and want to see you be successful. I think having a planned out strategy of reaching out to them when you get started in the business, maybe reaching out to them during the summer months, and then reaching out to them again in September and October as we enter into the AEP, OEP season, and reminding them of that. Your warm network is going to, if you activate it well and you ask for their referral, they're going to refer people to you if they know you, like you, and want to see you be successful. I want to spend a couple of minutes talking about what walk and talks look like, because this really feeds into the discussion that we're going to have around individual coverage HRAs. This is how I started my business. I would tell any of you, it's warm out, it's beautiful outside. If you're not spending 10 or 12 hours a week walking and talking small business America, dropping off information, picking up business cards, and making those connections, I think you're missing an enormous opportunity. So I laid out here in blue a sample of a great walk and talk process. So I'm just going to read through this. Number one, you walk into the small business with the intent of dropping off a marketing piece and picking up a business card. If you can't get a card, at least drop off information. If you have an opportunity to speak to someone, introduce yourself and tell them that you own a local health, life, and Medicare insurance agency and ask if they're happy with their current insurance situation. The main goal is to stop by, drop off information, and get a business card to initiate a follow-up process. I will tell you, when I'm walking and talking, I am not waiting on the business owner. I'm not asking to speak to anybody. I'm literally walking in, putting information down, trying to pick up a business card and moving on. So I'm not trying to solicit them in any way. I'm not trying to take up their time because I don't have an appointment. I'm just leaving a trail behind me. Number two, at the end.
Oh, quick question. Like, what kind of piece are you dropping off? What's your marketing piece?
Great question. So there's multiple pieces that are available on Marketing on Demand. I like postcards. I like take ones. And those are take ones are kind of longer, like number 10 size envelope, like a longer piece. I would focus, if I was pulling anything down from Marketing on Demand, I would absolutely focus on health insurance. Health insurance is the biggest lure that we can use to get people to strike and react. If you're talking about life insurance or long-term care insurance or disability insurance, I think that's difficult. People don't react to that as much as they do health insurance. So I would use a health insurance piece. There's also a beautiful trifold on Marketing on Demand that has health markets. You can put your information on it. It trifolds out and it goes through all of our products. I think that's a wonderful piece to use as well. And then I'm going to show you a second piece that really highlights, it's from Base. It highlights these individual coverage HRAs. And I think that's something that you can trifold and stick inside of the health markets trifold for additional information and to spark some additional interest about what we're going to talk about individual coverage HRAs. So I hope that's helpful, Cheryl. Number two is at the end of the week, we want to enter each business card into your CRM as a new household. This takes a little bit of time because it's manual data entry, but you're taking that business card, those business cards that you've picked up, and just getting them into your CRM. This is going to then create a new lead and put that lead in the new lead bubble in your CRM. I like to do that over the weekend because I like those walk and talk follow-up calls to be done early the next week on Monday. That's going to be part of the phone dials that I make on Monday. And number three is, at the beginning of the next week, I'm going to make that single follow-up phone call. Let them know that you stopped by and dropped off some information about our health insurance programs for small businesses, and just ask if they're happy with their current health and life insurance situation. Many times I'm leaving a voicemail. I'm not chasing them. Unless they told me when I stopped by that they want my help, then I'm going to chase them. But if I just dropped off information, picked up a business card, got them into my CRM, I'll call and leave a voicemail. And then I'll send them a one-off email, a follow-up email with the same information. I actually had pulled up here a sample email that I had built that I'll share with you guys too. So this is a walk and talk follow-up email script. It's just simply, I stopped by your business last week and dropped off some information about health and life insurance information for small businesses. I own a local health and life insurance agency under the health markets umbrella. We help individuals and small business owners navigate their insurance options. I just wanted to follow up and see if you're happy with your current health and life insurance situation. And then if it's appropriate and it's the right time of year, or you want to fill this in with the open enrollment period or the annual enrollment period at the end of the year, I have a little blurb in there about that. Feel free to check out my website, or you can call me directly. I'm happy to help guide you if you need assistance. So that process is really, really powerful because you are drip marketing on these people and putting your information in front of them multiple times. The last thing that you would do then is you would send a marketing piece by direct mail and staple their business card to the front of the marketing piece. It's a pattern interrupt. So you can pull any of the marketing flyers off of Marketing on Demand and take their business card, staple it to the front, trifold it, and mail it out to them. Think about it. When someone opens a direct mail piece and their business card is the first thing that's stapled to the front of it, it's going to be a pattern interrupt, and they're going to look twice at the information that's there. And by the time they've received this, you've walked into their business, you've dropped off a different marketing piece, you have made a phone call and left a voicemail, you've sent them an email, and now they're getting this fifth marketing piece. And then I'd close them out. Once you've done that, I'd close them out as lost in the CRM and allow your system to drip market on that business owner by email for the rest of eternity. Now you're building a database full of small business owners that you're going to drip market on until their trigger event truly happens. And so I think this is a wonderful way to really jumpstart your business. And honestly, probably the most proactive, aggressive way that you can go about engaging with small business owners. Number 4 is to network heavily. Are you in a networking group? Have you joined a BNI? I know some of you have. Are you engaged in local chamber of commerce? Have you joined local HR associations like SHRM? Are you a member of trade organizations like NABIP and NAFA? Those are all organizations where people are talking about benefits and insurance, and it's an opportunity to cross-pollinate and make connections. And then my last point was spend 40 hours per week doing revenue driving activities, running appointments, scheduling appointments, and marketing your practice. So I hope there's something that you guys can pull from this. I did want to spend a little bit of time kind of walking through what this actually looked like. Now I want to pivot a little bit and talk a little bit more about what that marketing piece and what that individual coverage HRA piece is that I would include. So I'm going to take you out to our resource center. Bear with me just a moment so I can get this open, and I'm going to show you guys where we can pull this down. And then we're going to pivot over to Michelle to talk a little bit more about this. So if you guys come to the resource center and you click on the carrier tab, this brings you in. You can click whatever state you live in. And then over here are all of the different lines of business. Under association is BASE. And BASE is our primary vendor for individual coverage HRAs. If you click on this BASE link, it opens up. All the carrier resources and carrier links are here. But under the document library, there's actually an individual coverage HRA. This is a product flyer that you can use. And I could almost see stapling a business card to this and using this as the only piece you're putting out. I think using the Health Markets trifold and maybe putting this inside of it. What I would do is I would have this printed on 2 sides because it is 2 pages. So here's the first page and then the second page. It goes over how it works, the guidelines, what needs to happen, what BASE is going to provide for them. It's a wonderful 1-page quick fact sheet about what individual coverage HRAs are all about. And so as we begin to pivot over towards Michelle, I've mentioned BASE a number of times. We've done training with them, but I wanted to continue these conversations because I hope many of you are out there drilling deep and plowing in the small business communities around you. And as you do that, I think the biggest offensive weapon that you can carry with you is knowledge about individual coverage, health reimbursement arrangements. This is a vehicle that employers can use to help their employees get individual health insurance. Sandra, I'm going to ask you and put you on the spot. How many of these do we have in process right now, just within my personal practice?
We have 5 going on 6.
And if you think about it, I don't know if you know the exact numbers, 5 going on 6. So these are companies, 5 or 6 companies that we're working with, that we're helping them implement individual coverage HRAs. And they're going to then bring us in to help all of their employees enroll in individual coverage, supplemental insurance, and life insurance. How many potential employees are we going to be meeting with over the next 2 months to help them over those 5 or 6 different companies?
A lot.
A lot. Dozens, if not more than 100.
Oh, yeah. In fact, actually today, tomorrow, and Thursday, we've got 12 right there with one company.
So just to give you guys a little context, there's a lot of companies out there. First of all, if a company has less than 50 employees, there is no federal requirement for them to offer group insurance. Some do, some don't, but they don't have to, right? There's no penalty for not offering group insurance. And so many of these small companies are looking to do something, or they're currently offering group insurance and they're getting absolutely hammered with the rate increases that they're seeing. It's not uncommon for us now to see 12 to 20% rate increases year over year over year. And so companies are coming to us and saying, I can't offer group insurance anymore. Other companies are coming to us and saying, to attract and retain employees, I need to do something, but maybe I don't have the participation I need to launch a group insurance plan. Or maybe my employees don't want to pay for it, but I need to do something. This is where an individual coverage HRA becomes a really big deal, because this is a vehicle that an employer can launch. And basically what they're doing is they're saying, I am going to provide a reimbursement amount to help each one of my employees go buy individual health insurance coverage. And when they launch that individual coverage HRA, it immediately creates a special enrollment, a qualifying event, which triggers a special enrollment period for every member of their company to go out and buy an individual health insurance plan or change their individual health insurance plan mid-year. So talk about creating opportunities outside of the AEP, OEP season. This is a vehicle that we can use to trigger that qualifying event for entire companies. And then what we're doing is we're setting it up and we're going in, we're telling them we need an hour with each employee. We're asking them to bring their spouse in and sit down with us. And then we're sitting down with these employees one-on-one and just doing what we do. We're fact finding. We're taking them through the positioning statement, the protection for life. We're helping them, identify what health insurance plan they want based on the employer reimbursement that is going to be provided. And then we're talking to them about the gaps and holes, and we're cross-selling into supplemental insurance and life insurance. But imagine if you could run 6, 8, 10 client meetings in a day by just going in and sitting with one company. It's an unbelievable opportunity, guys. And I think I'm starting to see the tip of the iceberg on this just because we've had so many just dropping in our lap. Sandra, you were going to say something there. Do you have something?
Yeah, well, a couple of things. First of all, employers really appreciate then, because I'm sort of an extension of their HR department. I'm there to help their employees with whatever their needs are, figuring out what's going to be best for the employee. And then also I tell the employee, think of me as an extension of your HR department. I'm going to show you all your options. We're going to discuss what is going to be working the best for you. So it really gives us the opportunity to not only talk about the health, but put the holes in the health and how other supplemental can help cover that expense.
I'd also say this then becomes a kind of a residual new client stream for us, because as they hire new employees throughout the year, guess who they're calling? We help guide those individuals too. And many of them, because they're coming to work for that employer, they're losing coverage elsewhere. They have a qualifying event, so we can help guide them as well. So
yeah, I actually have one on Friday. That's a new hire for one of the companies we've been helping. They said, can you come in and meet with this guy? Absolutely.
Yep. So I just think this is an enormous opportunity. To me, it all starts with walking and talking and networking and engaging with small business America. But the second piece of this is I want to arm you guys with some information so that you can speak intelligently to how an individual coverage HRA works and at least have enough information. You're not going to be an expert right out of the gate. I don't consider myself an expert yet, and we've done a number of these. I'm still learning things every day as I work with Michelle on different nuances to this and different things that we've got to take into consideration. I will tell you, we have more and more large companies now that are beginning to fall in our lap as well. We have a company we're working with right now that's 78 employees. They only have 28 on the group insurance, but they are blowing up their group insurance at the end of the month simply because they can't afford the premiums. There's no way to extend it. They are done at the end of this month, and everybody's in a mad panic, ourselves included, to make this happen and pull it all together. But when you get with a group that's over 50 employees, there are some different nuances as far as how these individual coverage HRAs actually work. So Michelle Drummond is our representative from BASE. She has, in a very short period of time with me, become one of my subject matter experts, because we're running into things almost every day now that I'm like, Michelle, what does this mean? Why is this? What is this? And she's done a great job of being Johnny on the spot and responding. So I asked Michelle to come in and just provide us with some additional context to really walk through the details of these individual coverage HRAs. So Michelle, I have I allowed you to share your screen. I don't know if you want to share your screen, what's going to be best for you.
Yes, I do actually.
Sorry you had to
Okay.
30 minutes of talking, but hopefully that context.
Oh no, I found it very interesting too.
Good.
Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Oh, perfect. Okay. So like Silas said, I'm Michelle. I am your contact for that territory, and we have lots and lots of different products, but we'll do more individualized training one-on-one later for that. But the ICHRA is the hottest topic, and we expect it to take over a lot of group insurances from what we're seeing by 2025. And lots of different reasons, but we'll start with the basics. When you hear ICHRA, that stands for Individual Coverage Health Reimbursement Arrangement. Okay, so what that means is the employees go out and get their own individual health insurance premiums with you. That's your chance to enroll them in whatever plan they want. And then the company is able to reimburse them 100% tax-free for those medical premiums. So you'll run into people where employers are say, "Oh, I just give them a bonus or a stipend." Okay, they don't want to do that. For one, they can't give them a medical stipend if they don't have a legal plan in place. The other thing is if they're giving them a bonus to cover that medical expenses, the employees are paying tax on it and the employer's paying all the matching FICA tax also. So when they have an actual HRA in place, it's 100% tax-free to the employees, and the business now gets to write it off as a taxable employee benefit plan or a non-taxable employee benefit plan. If they're giving them a bonus, another thing is if those employees go out and buy a boat instead of medical insurance, there's nothing they can do about it. So having a legal plan in place definitely works well for both sides tax when it comes to the tax laws. Okay. This was just a new plan in January 1st, 2020. Before that, HRAs have been around since 1954. They're not new, but they change as, things change. The Affordable Care Act came into play. There's new laws. So different ways of using HRAs. And this has by far been my favorite. It allows us now to classify things out where we haven't been able to do before. So when we set up an ICHRA, we can set up a benefit for the salaried employees only. Or we can set up one amount for the salaried employees and another amount for the hourly. Or you can base it on full-time versus part-time. Or you can also base it on rating areas, which has been pretty cool because I'll give you an example of one. I set one up in Minnesota. They have a couple hundred employees on a group plan. Works well for them. However, they have salesmen in 3 other states. So they have one in South Carolina, one in Missouri, and one in California. Well, you guys know better than I do that if you're setting someone up on a group plan, it's not going to benefit them in California the same as it would in Minnesota. It just doesn't work. So now they set up this ICHRA, and those 3 states that are not in Minnesota can go out and get their own individual plan that will cater to their needs, to their doctors, to their health networks, to their prescriptions, things like that. So rating areas has been a big one. Probably the biggest classification that we use or the most frequent is called age banding. This has been a game changer in the world of HRAs, and I'll tell you why. Anybody knows that a 27-year-old and a 57-year-old, their premiums are going to be very, very different. The older we get, those premiums keep going up. So you can set up age bands in any different way. Some people will do, 18 to 39 one amount, 40 to 64 another amount. But those can vary. They have the options. And that's something we tend to lean to when they have a large array of employees' ages. But that's something we'll go over to more as you have individual clients. Each client is going to be different. You'll never have a client the same, and the ICHRA will work very differently for every company. But that's what you have me for. So you don't have to be an expert. You just have to know the basics, and I'll help you with the rest.
Hey, Michelle, I think you muted there accidentally. So you went on mute.
Can you hear me now?
You're back.
Okay. Sorry.
You're fine.
Good,
We didn't hear
good.
anything you said once you flipped the slide there.
Okay, perfect. So these are just a few examples of using an ICHRA. And Silas hit it on the head when he said the group rates are increasing. I have seen companies drop group like crazy this year because they can't afford those group premium increases. At one point, you guys are going to think I'm crazy, but I had a client who jumped 83%. the company was like, I don't know what to do. We can't do this, you know. So especially those groups under 50, the smaller businesses, they usually want to help their employees, but they don't know there's another option besides group insurance. So getting that ICHRA out there and say, hey, we have options. You can actually give your employees a tax-free benefit and help them with their health insurance premiums. Then they start to get a little bit interested and are like, maybe that is an option, you know. Um, it's nice because instead of where the group rates are going up every year, you have predictability and you have a budget you can stick to, especially under 50, since they're not required to offer a specific amount. Then they know, okay, we know we need to plan in the budget for next year $200 a month per employee reimbursement, or $100, or they have that predictability and don't have to offer a 23% increase for the group premiums. Let's see here. Did I hit mute again? Oh, no. Okay. Yeah, and we kind of talked about this plan design. These are the permitted classes. These are the most common, the salaried versus hourly and full-time versus part-time. But I would say recently the age banding has been the biggest from what I've seen. When we set the plan up, and when we do, I always like to walk through the applications with the client, just for a couple reasons, but one of them is we want to make sure and protect their business, because you can do a monthly accrual or an annual amount on how you reimburse the employees. I always recommend the monthly monthly accrual to your clients, because if they give them the annual amount in January, they pay their premiums for the whole year and quit in February, the business is out that money. So I always recommend a monthly accrual. Just my opinion, but we like to make sure our clients are protected in this situation. Underneath those classes, you can actually do some different things. You can do like a reimbursement if you have an employee only, or an employee plus one dependent, employee plus two dependent, employee plus three dependent. That's nice because if you offer, let's say an employee only has $200 a month premium, but an employee the same age with family may have a $1,500 a month premium, you can offer more depending on how many dependents. So that's spouse, dependent, children only. Okay. And of course by age, which is the new favorite. Okay, so qualifications, they do have to be enrolled in an individual health insurance plan. That's where you guys come in. So just like Silas said, we're working on several groups, and now Silas and Sandra are going in and enrolling all of their employees in individual health insurance premiums. So where this business had no options before, they're dropping group because they can't afford it. The only other way to get the employees a benefit for, the requirements for the 50 and over, because they have 50 full-time employees, they have to have some sort of benefit, whether it's group benefit or the ICHRA. So that's, Medicare. I forgot to tell you, Medicare premiums are included. Those are also individual premiums. So if you have employees on Medicare, they can be reimbursed for those premiums. It does have to be a minimum essential coverage plan. So if you have employees that are on COBRA, that's a group plan, so that won't be considered. Even though they're paying full premiums, it's still considered a group plan. If you have employees that are on those share programs like the Christian Share, MediShare, Liberty Share, those are not included either. Okay, it has to be an
Michelle?
individual plan. Pardon me, yes.
I'm sorry, I believe Medicaid is also considered coverage for accessing the ICHRA, correct? Because there are some, they have the sliding fee scale for their Medicaid.
Correct. Yep, that is also an individual plan. Okay. Um, one thing I'm going to tell you quick, and we're not going to get into detail because I don't want to confuse everybody, but a lot of people are going to ask about their subsidies. Subsidies is a big part of individual health insurance premiums. If they're under 50 employees, they do not have to offer an affordable amount. They can choose what they offer. So they may say, we just want to offer $100 across the board to everybody each month. And that's okay. If the benefit that the employer is offering is not considered affordable, then they can opt out of the ICHRA and take the full subsidy. Okay. If the amount that the employer is offering is affordable, then they have to take the ICHRA and they cannot take the subsidy.
And just to kind of add some context to that. So if there's an affordability component to this, and
Right.
Michelle can calculate that for us. So it's
Right.
based on the household size and the projected adjusted gross income for the family for that individual person. And the employer offers a reimbursement amount. And then that amount is either falls into being affordable or it's not, doesn't make it affordable. And so that's kind of the difference between the two. So it does get a little more complex. When you have a company with less than 50 employees and they're offering they're offering a reimbursement that is not affordable. So sometimes an employer is like, hey, I want to do something, but I can't afford more than $100 a month. Well, there's still some value there because by offering an individual coverage HRA, they're triggering the qualifying event that creates a special enrollment period for that entire group to go to the exchange and get full subsidies. And in some situations, that makes sense because they're at least getting their employees access to coverage mid-year and they're getting them access to the federal subsidies. And even though they're offering $100 a month, none of the employees are going to take it because their subsidy, the federal subsidy through the exchange is going to be a much higher amount. So there's some games you can play in that. I say games, I mean, it's legitimate and legal.
It is legal.
It is legal, but you can do that when a company has, less than 50 employees. When a company has more than 50 employees, there's not a tremendous
Totally
benefit in
okay.
doing that. The employer really wants to make sure that whatever they're offering is deemed affordable, which forces those employees to take the employer
ICHRA.
reimbursement, not the federal subsidy. So there are some nuances depending on the size of the group over and under 50 and kind of what makes sense. But to Michelle's point earlier, everybody's situation is unique and different, just like most of the consumers that we work with. So it's a matter of getting her and her team involved to kind of help guide this and sort through this.
Right, right. And we have a report that we can run that once we get a census will tell us if it's affordable or not, what amounts they need to offer to be affordable. But I have had many, many clients over the last couple years set up an ICHRA and all they're offering is $50 a month to their employees. That's not affordable, so they go to the marketplace and take the full subsidy. But it's just like Silas said, it creates that special enrollment period that instead of waiting until the end of the year to enroll for January 1st, they can enroll and get health insurance now. So to a lot of the employers, it's worth it getting that special enrollment period just so their employees can have insurance, but then they just take the subsidy.
And in that situation, the employer is going to have minuscule costs, right?
Very minimal.
Because the employees, nobody's going to take. I mean, everybody's going to have a higher subsidy on the
Right.
exchange than they are that very small reimbursement that the company is offering. So really, the only expense the company is going to incur is the cost of administering the individual coverage HRA that goes to base. And do you want to walk through maybe that fee structure a little bit, just so
Sure.
what that might look like?
Yes, yes. So we do not bill by how many are eligible employees, we bill by how many are enrolled. So to set the plan up is $350. To renew it each year is $250. And then there's a per person per month depending on the size. So for 1 to 24 employees, it's $6 per person per month. For 25 to 49 employees, it's $5 per person per month. And over 50 is $4 per person per month. And there's a minimum of $30. So in that case, Silas and I were just talking about where nobody enrolled, they pay $30 a month. And I think between that and the setup fee, it's $710 for the first year and $610 for the second year. But remember, that's a taxable write-off to their business, so they get to write those fees off under professional and legal fees.
And I
So
promise you, that is a minuscule fraction of the cost
minimal.
for them to offer group insurance to that, any of those.
Yes. Yes. So, and if for some reason you had a huge, large group, then, we can work with things. We have a little negotiating power. My boss is wonderful. So, the biggest thing is I think we just need to get out there and let the small businesses know that they do have options. Because a lot of them don't know. Everybody just assumes group is the only option. And with all the research and everything that we've done, we're pretty sure by 2025, 2026, the ICHRA is going to be the model for health insurance because the group rates are just out of control these days.
Well, and I think it's been something that's been building. I mean, we've seen this. We worked in the group space for
Yeah.
10 years, me personally, and Sandra's been helping me the last couple of years. But we're consistently seeing these small groups, and we have, I don't know, 25 or 30 probably small groups, and we consistently see, 10 to 20% rate increases year after year after year
After year.
And
Remember when, yeah, that was reversed. It used to be the individual was so expensive, people couldn't afford to get individual. So they begged and pleaded for group. Now we're seeing that turn.
And I think there's some real upsides here too. I tell the employers, you can quote sell this sizzle to your employees because first of all, each employee gets to custom design their plan according to what they want and what they need, right? It's not just one canned product. If they want an HSA, great, we can set that up. If they don't, that's fine too. So they get to custom design it. Number two, they can add additional products to it. So they can fill the gaps with the supplemental, the life insurance. They can do disability and long-term care insurance, and they can do that on a one-off basis. Number three, they own this policy. So whether or not they have insurance is not tied to whether or not they work for this particular employer. If they get fired, if they retire, if they leave, they can continue to take this plan with them and not reset deductibles and out-of-pocket limits mid-year when they're making those types of moves. Also, when they leave that employer who's offering an ICHRA, it triggers an event, a qualifying event again for them. If they're not taking government subsidies, if they were taking an employer reimbursement, it triggers them to be able to go back to the marketplace and actually get a subsidy in lieu of what the employer was actually offering as they exit that particular company. So, when you really think about it, it probably makes a hell of a lot more sense than what they're doing today with group insurance. I mean, employers don't pay for your homeowner's insurance or your auto insurance or things like that. It's kind of a weird thing that they actually have always, or for many years, offered, to pay for health insurance. So, Cheryl, I saw that you came off mute and had a question. I didn't know if you wanted to ask your question.
They were not going to take the subs or the employer contribution, and they were going to take the subsidy. What about for the the owners of the company, the highly compensated people? If you still wanted to do something, if they weren't eligible for the subsidy, would you class it out then? Is that what you would do, or would you just let them? How would you handle that?
So that's going to depend.
Okay.
If it's a business owner, it depends on how their business is structured, if they can participate or not.
Okay.
If they're an S corp or for some reason a sole proprietorship or a partnership, then they have to actually hire their spouse to work in the business to get the benefit for them. If they're a C corp, they do not. The C corp can take the full benefit. Now, as far as highly key and comped employees, if you can sort them out, where those employees are salaried and the other ones are hourly, then that would work.
Okay.
You can't sort it out by highly key comped, or you can't do management, or you can't do owners this amount. It has to be the salaried versus hourly, or full-time versus part-time.
Okay. And then
So
go ahead.
oh no, go ahead, Cheryl.
So then on the employer contribution as well, they can say, like, if the employer said, we're gonna do $300 a month, and can those funds be used not just for themselves, but also for spouse or children coverage?
Yes. Yes. So
Okay.
when they get the benefit, it's for themselves as the employee and their family.
Okay.
And it can reimburse individual health insurance premiums, individual dental, and individual vision premiums.
Okay, but not like the supplemental plans or
No,
life or anything
no,
like that. Okay.
Yep.
correct.
And that's
Correct.
important to note that if somebody is buying additional supplemental or life insurance, those would be one-off products that they're going
Right.
to pay the premium
Yeah.
for, not receive reimbursement. So,
Thank you.
Michelle, there's a couple, and I know we've got about 5-6 minutes left. There's a couple of questions. So Kemp Cunningham asked, he said, so you're saying the employer would reimburse most or all of the marketplace premium, or offer very little and the employee can take the subsidy. That's correct on a
Correct.
company with less than 50 employees.
Correct.
And then, sorry, did you have something you wanted to add to
Nope.
that?
Nope.
Okay.
If they're over 50, it's a whole different ball game. So I think we focus on the small today, right, Silas?
I think so.
Okay.
That's the majority of what we're going to be running into. And I think it's
Okay.
just important to know if it's a group of over 50, there's different rules.
Just call Michelle.
So, and then he asked, so then the employer would offer a follow-up bonus, maybe to help the other employee insurance costs net of subsidy. Well, I mean, most employers don't cover 100% of their employees' premiums
Group
and
insurance.
costs
Yeah.
today. I mean, could they do that? They could, but it would be not necessarily if they're offering it as a bonus, they're basically just grossing up wages.
And now it's taxable.
And now it becomes taxable. So I don't think, I think if I were advising an employer, I would say push what makes sense through the individual coverage HRA. Now, the other thing that they could do is they could offer to help fund a health savings account.
HSA. Yep.
Right, the HSA, if an employee agrees to enroll in an HSA approved insurance policy. So we do have some companies where like, we're going to help use the ICHRA to help fund your premium. And then we're going to use an HSA contribution if you enroll in an HSA approved plan to help fund your deductible and your out-of-pocket medical expenses. So that would be another way that they could do it, and probably a little better than just raising wages.
Yeah.
So Sandra posted some things.
That's typically what I've been setting up quite a bit, Silas, is the ICHRAs with the HSAs. So that way, even if they take the subsidy and can't participate in the ICHRA, they can get a benefit from their employer through the HSA.
Yep. And that's pretty
Most
sweet
common.
because the employee can put money into the HSA and write it off, and then the employer can make a contribution and write it off. It is
Mhm.
money that then the employee owns. The combined contributions, though, have to stay within the annual contribution limits for an individual or a family based on age as well. So, and then Kemp asked, what do you need from us as far as upfront info in order to meet or quote a company?
So really all you need to do is send me an email with the company name and the number of employees, and I can do a formal proposal for you, and it looks really nice. Um, if you are meeting with someone and you want me to be on the call, then I do this a lot with Silas and Sandra and other health markets agents around the United States. We just set up a Teams call or a Zoom call. Give me a couple of options of times, and then I can be on there with you to kind of lead the ICHRA talk if that's helpful.
Yeah, I think that's been very helpful for us. It's nice to have a subject matter expert. And because all these situations are a little unique and different, I like to stay in my lane and then right. So that has worked. That has worked very, very well. The other thing that as we get a little bit deeper into things, and many of you have not done group insurance before. So one other thing that is a nice thing to gather as you're beginning to engage with an employer is what we call a census. And Michelle, do you want to maybe give them some information about what a good census has and what you need on that census?
Yeah, so we can run a report for you that tells you what is comparable to what the government considers affordable, which typically is like the lowest cost silver plan. But if I can get, and I've got templates I can send out to you too, but their, of course, their name, their zip code, their um, income, household income, if they're smokers. Those are the things that we need, and we can put into this report, and it'll spit out a report that kind of tells you where they need to be. And that's been really handy because when we do the age banding, it gives us a range of where each person is at. But it's definitely helpful. I mean, if you have a few people, we don't need to do that. But if you have, 10, 15, 20, 40 employees, it's a really good tool to have if they're wanting to see what's affordable. And that helps you guys also because then you know if when you're enrolling them, if you should let them take the subsidy or not.
And date of birth needs to be on there and also dependent,
Yes.
right? Now, one thing that's a little dicey to get, and we're struggling with this with one of our groups
Right
is
now. Yeah.
income. Because a lot of times an employee may not want to tell their employer what their total household income is. So I'm not sure we're working to navigate that, but to get the best and accurate data, having that
Right.
household income really allows us to dial in the affordability.
Kind of a game changer. Yeah.
Yeah. So Kemp asked, why would an employer offer a lot of insurance assistance if it causes the employee to lose the subsidy?
Well, because for one, they want to help with recruiting and retaining employees, and employee benefit plans are huge right now. Where, years ago people weren't as focused on that. They want employees. I- if you have, here's an example, if you have a client and they've got 20 employees and 15 of them are getting a subsidy, it may not be the best option. But I'm very vocal about if it's a good for them or not. Um, if you have 20 employees and only a few of them are getting a subsidy, it's still going to be a good benefit for those other employees. So you kind of have to weigh the pros and cons. Um, but the biggest thing is that special enrollment period. Even if they're not going to take it and they're going to get a subsidy, it just creates that special enrollment period. So instead of waiting till January for insurance, they can get it now.
Right.
I think that's the case with the group that we're doing today, actually, is it's just creating that special enrollment period because they have so many that don't have any insurance and they
Have nothing.
They have nothing. So
Right.
like you said, every employer situation is a little unique. And we also, that's why the income information is also important when we're collecting it to really help them determine, hey, if you offer this many people may be losing their subsidy if they have it.
Right.
And I would say, Kemp, if it's a low income group, blue collar group, they're not making a bunch of money, they're all heavily subsidy eligible, then I would tell an employer, don't throw your money away. Like tap into the
Right.
government resource to get them to pay for their insurance. If you're
And
working,
then set up an HSA and you can contribute a little benefit to them that way.
yep. On the flip side of it, though, you're working with a law firm, and everybody's highly compensated within the organization. They got 14 employees or 14 lawyers making
Right.
$1 million each. Like, okay, now as an employer, maybe you do want to do something. It doesn't make sense to do group insurance, but maybe you want to give them $1,000 a month, as
Towards
an
premiums. Yeah.
employee benefit to help offset their premiums.
That's why, when I say every business is different, every business is very different. So, if you have someone you're talking to, let me know and we can talk through the pros and cons and see which is the best route to go for them, whether it's an ICHRA and an HSA or just an ICHRA or just an HSA. If the purpose of setting up an ICHRA is to get a special enrollment period, then we need to work around that. Even if they have large subsidies and they don't take part in the ICHRA, it still creates that enrollment period. So,
The other thing
and,
that I
and
like about the HSA, and Lauren had a question just around, does the HSA, if they use the HSA, does that cause them to lose any subsidy? And that's the beauty of it, is when an employer
no,
puts money into an employee's HSA, that is not taxable income, so it doesn't raise their adjusted gross income and deplete their subsidy. It like truly is completely outside of that particular calculation. So I love the idea of doing an ICHRA with an HSA, and Michelle and her team can admit, I mean, those are two separate programs running side by side. One to create the ICHRA will create the special enrollment period and potentially provide us, a reimbursement if someone wants it. But in many situations, it's the HSA that becomes the real benefit there long term, because they're helping pay, not the government's helping the employees pay their premium, and the employer's helping them pay their deductibles and their out of pockets on
right.
on that policy.
And the HSA, I'll give you those plan fees too. Those are really very minimal. It's $250 to set up the plan. It's only $50 a year to renew. And then it's $3.50 per person per month with a minimum of $15. So very, very minimal. The other thing is when you guys enroll in ICHRA, or when we enroll them for you, one of you've referred, when they enroll and renew every year, you guys receive compensation. I don't think we've ever talked about that. You get a little compensation for working with Base and helping us set them up.
So Joel asked, can employer choose whatever amount they want to contribute each month? Yes, they can, but we want to guide them on that to, you know, if all of their employees are going to be heavy subsidy eligible, then we probably want to reduce the amount they're giving. If it's the other direction, then we want to jack up the amount that they're giving within whatever budget they have too. Because that's part of it, is like, from an employer perspective, they have a legitimate budget that they're trying to stay within. So if we know that budget amount, we can say, okay, here's what you could do. And maybe some of that budget they're spending goes through the individual coverage HRA. Maybe we load it all into maybe we say, hey, we're going to give them $50 a month in the individual coverage HRA, knowing nobody's going to take that. So we can take their entire budget and use it to fund the health savings accounts and pay deductibles and co-pays and things like that. Actually, it wouldn't be co-pays in an HSA, but deductibles and out-of-pockets and things like that. Cheryl, did you have another question?
You actually answered it. I was going to ask if they could administer the HSA as well. So that was, and you can pay for Medicare premiums as well with an HSA, can't you?
Yes, after they're retired. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be downstream a little bit. I don't think while they're working they can. I think
not while they're working. No.
Okay.
Just after they're completely retired.
Oh,
but it's a really nice way to save. Plus, with the HSA, after they have $2,000 in there, they can have investment options also.
Okay.
I know I take over your time.
This is a wonderful. This is a wonderful opportunity and a wonderful tool in your tool belt. And it's not just a tool; it should be like the main six-shooter. Small Business America, right? I mean, I go back to this flyer right here. If you guys aren't getting these printed out and dropping these off to small businesses, make sure your information is attached to it in some way. But I think this is a game changer and a real opportunity to reach out and say, have you ever thought about this? Have you ever done this? Whether they offer group insurance or not, it's an alternative. It's a creative alternative to group insurance if group insurance is too expensive. Or if they don't offer anything, it's a way for them to get their employees access to government subsidies for a very minuscule fee, each year. So a lot of cool ways you can use this and leverage this. Bottom line, though, I go back to my earlier comments. If you're not where you want to be in the business or you're struggling, you got to get out there and engage with small business owners and let them know what your capabilities are. Nobody knows that your insurance agency is open until you let them know. So we gotta really, I think, get out there and let them know. I also would tell you there's nothing wrong with walking and talking in the same towns, the same areas, the same businesses on a semi-regular basis. Sometimes people are like, oh, I've walked and talked. I actually heard somebody say that not too long ago. I've walked and talked all the businesses around me. I'm like, I doubt if that's the case, but if it is, I would encourage you to go back through. I mean, you walk through 100 businesses in a week. If you do it on a Tuesday morning and then walk those same 100 businesses on Thursday afternoon, you're going to run into totally different individuals, even who are there to receive the information that you're dropping off. And I've had some really successful situations develop over the years with walk and talks. I can't tell you how many cool scenarios I've had. I remember one night I was driving back from Fort Wayne. I was coming up State Road 3 and I saw an excavation company. They just had a building and a pile of dirt and a bunch of excavating equipment. I saw a bunch of guys standing outside their pickup trucks, like end of the day, just kind of recapping the day, I think. And I pulled in, introduced myself, gave them all one of my take ones. That ended up turning into long-term clients of ours. And they referred us to multiple family members and multiple people that they knew within their community. And it was just because I stopped and introduced myself and said I could help. I actually was meeting with a client over at the 9th Hole. Some of you may know that. It's a restaurant and bar over on the west side of South Bend. I was meeting with a client there, introduced myself to the owner while I was there, just as I was walking out, and said, hey, if I can help you guys. Became a longtime client of mine. We wrote a lot of business on the employees out of that particular location. I can remember 2 large manufacturing organizations that I walked into. And in both situations, I pulled it in and I'm like, they probably have large group insurance. There's probably nothing I can do for them. One of them, I walked in, the receptionist, and just dropped off my information, said, you know, who I was and that I could help with health insurance, asked if they were happy with their current health insurance situation. The one gal in the one business said, hey, we do have great group insurance here, but I'm a part-time employee and my husband's self-employed. Can you help us? And it ended up in a sale. I had another situation like that where she goes, no, we have great insurance here, but my son just left his job to become self-employed. They're looking for insurance now. Do you think you could help their family? Like, you don't know what it's going to develop into if you just do the work, and it's not difficult work when it's all said and done. So I would just, this is far better leads than internet leads. If you're reliant on internet leads, I would just encourage you, get out there, smile, show who you are, wear your colors, introduce yourself as the owner of a local health insurance agency, drop off information, and then implement that follow-up process. And base can obviously be a really, really important part of that. So what questions do you guys have before we wrap up today? So Kristen asked, I just saw this. If they set up the HRA and no one uses it, and then they only use the HSA, will the employer get charged for the HRA annual fees as well? Yes, they will. So what Michelle had said is if they launch an individual coverage HRA, they have the startup fee of $350. That gives all their employees, you know, creates a special enrollment period. And then there's a minimum monthly fee of $30 a month for the individual coverage HRA. So it's a total of $710 a year, you know, for that first year. But they created that special enrollment period so all their employees could actually get the coverage. And $710 spread out over 12 months is like nothing for any small business, honestly. Even
so that would be for the situation where they don't have health insurance in place already. Because if they have health insurance in place at work, they could just cancel that, and that would also give them special enrollment.
Correct. Yeah. So if an employer has group insurance and they're just blowing up the group insurance, they have less than 50 employees, and they're not going to offer any sort of a stipend. Maybe the key there is to set up the health savings account and say, we're going to send you to the marketplace. We're going to have the government help you pay your health insurance premium, and then we're going to pivot to helping you. Now, I will say that the problem with that, honestly, Seth, is the optics. If an employer says we're blowing up our group insurance and we're not offering anything else, employees are going to become a little upset about that, right? So sometimes just the individual coverage HRA, it's the optics of, hey, we're going to give you $100 a month or 150 or even $200 a month, something. Even if the employees aren't going to take it because their government subsidies are going to be larger than that, there's still the optics of the company is doing something for me. Good question, though. All right, friends. I hope this has been helpful. Michelle, thank you so much for joining us today. We're going to continue this learning journey around individual coverage HRAs, but I just encourage you, if you haven't done a walk and talk yet, go do 20 of them this week and see what happens. So take care. Have a good week, everybody. I appreciate you. Thanks for being here, Michelle.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Have a great day.
Take care, everybody.